Willis the Silas fans, you're eating good tonight. This is the last video for Crustabuary, and from what I understand, the second best of the four. Yeah, I started off a bit too strong with the Dungeons of Blood and Dream review and had to kinda crunch the Eggwife and Psychopomp videos just a teensy little bit, but that's okay. We're gonna make up for it here. With all of that being said, what in the fuck are we looking at today? Golden Light, oh lord, a first-person psychological horror reverse prop hunt roguelike. Holy moly. I've saved this game for last because when observed from a distance, this is the most incomprehensible video game schizo-babble out of any of the games I've reviewed, probably just ever. Psychopomp Gold was also incomprehensible, but I was kind of able to dance around it by saying, it's like an art piece. But this is shit I can explain. It just looks nuts to anyone who hasn't played the game. So, the premise, the story if you will. On a beautiful sunny day, you're out on a wonderful picnic with your very own lady girl, when, out of nowhere, she's taken by the gut. You must now venture into the gut to get her back. Very simple, but what is the gut? Well, from how I understand it, it seems to be a unique dimension similar to the backrooms, but is also sentient, regularly insults you, and cheers you on when you hurt yourself. You must go through several floors with varying enemies and visual themes before getting some shit-ass endings that made me question making the video, but that's for later. Considering that's all there is for the story, kind of, we're gonna go right on ahead to the mechanics of the game. With this game being a roguelike, it kind of has a self-explanatory gameplay loop. You enter a floor, find the necessary amount of keys, then find the elevator to take you down to the next floor. Floors are separated by threes into distinct biomes, with the first floor being normal, the second floor sending every enemy to you when you get the last key, and the third floor hosting a boss monster. Pretty typical stuff, but it's what you do outside of your main goal that makes the game unique. To start off, items. There are consumables and weapons. The consumables will have a random effect, which I believe changes every time you go to a different biome. I might be wrong, and can be either eaten or thrown. You won't know what a consumable does until you eat it, so sometimes you just have to suck it up, even if that means blowing yourself up in the process. Almost every consumable will heal you for some amount, so unless it does explode, you at least get a little bit of health out of the gamble. The weapons have a bit more going on. Every weapon will be alive or dead, which basically determines how good it is. If it's dead, it won't have any special effects and does half the damage a living weapon does, but this makes them far more safe. Less risk, less reward. Living weapons will always have a status effect that they can inflict. This could be fire, poison, or even regeneration. If you find a living weapon, hold on to that shit. They are very valuable. Weapons break over time, but you can still get one last use out of your fire axe by eating it. Eating your weapons gives a lot more health than the consumables, but the amount a weapon will heal is also affected by its durability. This is how the game introduces a component of resource management. You can only heal by eating the consumable items that almost always will have a negative status effect, or you have to eat the thing that lets you defend yourself, and you have to keep in consideration that you don't know what all has spawned on the map. The other main method of player progression besides items is mementos. These are your typical roguelike upgrades, from growing more legs to the point where you have 9 of them, to growing 2 fingers from each of your already existing ones, and growing cysts on your legs that make you quieter. You'll find these randomly throughout the levels, but can also find them strewn about the Eternal Field, and can also buy them from Sun, an NPC in the Eternal Field. I mentioned status effects, of which there are several. The in-game journal actually has a whole page dedicated to listing them, with some functioning how you would expect. Bleeding and poison will drain health over time, but poison will never kill you. The others, however, are much more unique. Fire will burn you alive until the flame goes out, but if you spam your dash, it'll go away a lot faster. Rust makes it so your weapons will degrade a whole lot faster when used, so be wary of enemies if you are full of rust. Bone Chill will slowly damage you over time until you die, and can be degraded faster by sprinting. Gold Hunger will drain your gold, then drain your health until either you die or it runs out. But if you collect any gold pieces, this will quell the Gold Hunger much faster. Finally, there's Love, which just makes you unable to attack for its duration. This journal page also shows that there are status combinations which benefit the player, granting a boon if you can manage to get them. When you get them both, the original statuses go away, so it's a purely positive thing to get these. These are all very good to get, but the challenge comes in actually getting both afflictions at the same time. There's a couple ways you can get these combos to happen. Sometimes, a room will just be filled with a cloud of any given affliction. You can, of course, eat a consumable to get whatever affliction it causes if it has one, and if your weapon has an affliction, you can hit yourself with the weapon to get the effect. Hitting yourself also ties into another of the main mechanics, the reputation system. Remember, all of the levels you're running through are part of a sentient being, the gut. At first, it loves you and will send somewhat minimal threats to you. This love can be severed, however, because not only can you kill monsters, but you can also break the walls of a level just by attacking them. Killing enemies, NPCs, and breaking walls are all actions the gut hates, and as your reputation lowers, it will send more monsters to kill you. And just to fuck you over, will increase the prices of the few vendor NPCs that exist. Apparently, it can even get to a point where boss monsters will start spawning in biomes they don't normally appear in, so it would be wise to not let this get out of hand. To reverse the hatred, you can either hit yourself several times, make sure not to accidentally kill yourself in the process, or you can go to the golden tree in the eternal field, more on that in a bit, give it half of your gold, and completely reset your reputation with the gut. All in all, there's a good amount of distinct mechanics that all feed into a sort of ecosystem of player-driven actions. You can have shit happen like, if you already have gold hunger, then hit yourself with a weapon that is afflicted with love, you get the gold love bonus, so more health. The restrictions of love and gold hunger are removed, and you raise your reputation with the gut, so it should throw less shit at you. Of course, this hinges on you having the right shit at the right time, and I'm gonna bitch about that in just a few minutes. Just give me a moment. Before that, I want to briefly talk about the enemies.
So I get to work this morning, and normally the first thing I say to my coworkers is, "Hey guys, how's it going?"
This section won't be long, as there's a whole lot of enemies that kind of act the same, or at least very similar. A good portion of the monsters in this game are mimics. This is where the reverse prop hunt element comes in. These enemies disguise themselves as the various objects within the biomes. Some are small, some are big, and some will only ever be one specific thing. Every now and then, they'll move around, sometimes just directly in front of you, which can lead to some rather comedic moments. The primary way of knowing one is near if you haven't seen it move is by listening. If a mimic-type enemy is nearby, they emit a ragged breathing sound, which will get louder as you get closer. You can actually get pretty close before they'll attack, but sometimes you just gotta jump the gun and start swinging. The mimics that are only disguised as one thing ever are the easiest to spot. The main one I think of is the photorealistic deer mimic that only spawns in the cabins. The normal prop will have a standard wooden frame behind the deer head, but the enemy will have a frame of meat. There are several other enemies that don't bother with disguises and just fucking gun it if they see you. Some act like traps, some are neutral and only attack if you steal from them, and some make me want to pull my own teeth out. I'll also mention that bosses do exist in the third floor of each biome, and they all drop a special weapon when killed, but otherwise they aren't really special. They make a loud scary noise, do big damage, and have a lot of health, but otherwise are just kind of another enemy that is only on one floor. The last main component of the game I'm going to talk about is the Eternal Field. It acts as the hub area that you go to whenever you die or clear a biome for the first time. It has an entrance to each biome, each with their own specific building or structure, but most of them are locked behind gates that need a golden key to open. You'll get these keys randomly within the other levels, but there are also some placed around the Eternal Field. Also randomly scattered around here are weapons, mostly road signs, but sometimes guns, ammo, and mementos. There are mushroom creatures that drop a whole lot of gold when killed, and a couple NPCs that will sell you guns and mementos. So with the weapons, enemies, and NPCs, the Eternal Field acts not only as a hub, but also a self-sufficient method of rearming yourself if you die, and a good way to make yourself a little stronger before going to the next floor. As I said earlier, the golden tree is here, so you can also reset your gut reputation before entering the normal levels again. Word of advice: don't try to navigate the Eternal Field on foot. It is huge, and you will get lost. The game knows this and provides a sentient bicycle for you to get around faster. It offers up a decent amount of conversation and is a tape player with some really good tunes for riding around the field.
I'm going to open up a hospital.
With all of that being said, I think I've gone over most of the main parts of the game and what makes it special. But unlike the other Crustaberry videos, I need to list some gripes I've had with this game. I do think overall it's more good than bad, but there is some shit that annoyed me to no end. First off, I am so sorry, but if you're looking into playing this game, you're gonna need the wiki. Bear in mind, it is hosted on Fandom, so enter if you dare. The reason I say this is because the game barely tells you anything in a digestible format. Sure, it gives you all the afflictions and what ones can combine, but otherwise, so much shit will just happen completely fucking randomly. I know it's a roguelike, but listen, a man can only take so much. And unless you are told what some of these journal entries mean, you are never gonna know what they are. 2 of them are obvious. These just show when you get the different parts of she, and this one is just the difficulty you're on. But the other 2 main things don't make much sense unless you are told. This one is supposed to show your reputation with the gut, which you would not know the reputation system exists because the tutorial only hints towards it by having the gut say good when you hit yourself. If you don't decipher the context of that word spurred on by that action, you won't know there's a reputation system. So this means nothing to you. In this one, this is to let you know which ending you're gonna get based on the things you've done so far. And oh, I'm really gonna get into that, just you fucking wait. A small annoyance I had across all my playtime was actually picking up anything. There's no crosshairs, so you have to rely on the game recognizing when you're looking at something, so it gives you the option to pick it up. Sometimes this works fine, but most of the time it's finicky as fuck. Another thing, I understand the weapon's random status effects, that's common among many roguelikes, but why the consumables? The tutorial does tell you from this note, so it is intentional, but I feel like it would be much better if each item had a set effect it would give, instead of everything being random all the time. If this were the case, you could strategize a lot more based on the items that you find. Dungeons of Blood and Dream had a system similar to this with the potions. Every potion had the same 2 or so combinations of smells, but every run it would reset your character's memory of the potions. But if you, the player, remembered the smells or wrote them down, you could avoid the bad potions and only get good ones. I feel like this game would benefit if the consumables acted this way too. Now, I understand it may not be fair to compare these 2 games specifically, given that they were released like 4 years apart, but that isn't something unique to Dungeons of Blood and Dream. It pulled that mechanic directly from Rogue, you know, the founding game of the roguelike genre released over 40 years ago? I am fine with unpredictability in a game, but too much of it just leads to frustration on the player's part. One last thing before the big one, and this may be more of my fault than the game, but at first I didn't understand that the Eternal Field is supposed to let you get some resources before going into a level, letting you prepare for whatever is next. I assumed that if you died, you just lost most of your shit and had to try a bit harder on the next biome. The game wants you to not die and just keep growing in power by getting more mementos and sending you to the Eternal Field after each biome so you can get more mementos and reset your rep, but this isn't immediately clear until you've opened up a few of the gates and can access the gun vendor and kill the mushrooms for more gold. Again, that might be more on me, but it still affected my playthrough and initial enjoyment of the game. With that long-winded rant over, I want to reiterate, I do not hate this game. I liked it for the most part, it just had some things that annoyed me quite a bit, and I thought should be included in this video as my honest thoughts. Would I recommend this game? Hesitantly, yes. I don't think it's smart to go into this blind, as much as that may help the atmosphere and overall feel of the game. I think the lack of information is just going to make the player not want to play it. If you recommend this to anyone else, I would at least warn them that, hey, this game has some weird shit going on, and if they want more details, give it to them. With that being said, if you made it to this point in the video, I want to humbly thank you for sticking around for this special event. Will I be making Crush February a yearly thing? Fuck no, making 4 videos in a month is such a time stealer. You will get your slop when daddy is done in the kitchen. Now go back in your room and watch more of my Barony videos.